The start of a short-term ceasefire between Israel and Hamas militants has been delayed until Friday. This according to a top Israeli official. Moreover, according to sources, Israel's Mossad director David Barnea has arrived in Doha to meet with Qatari Prime Minister and other officials to discuss the final details of the deal. While the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu says that he has directed his intelligence agency Mossad to act against the heads of Hamas militants. The first truce in a near 7-week-long war reached after mediation by Qatar. It was hailed around the world as a sign of progress that could ease the suffering of civilians in Gaza and bring more Israeli captives back home. But according to Israel's National Security Council director, the contacts on the release of hostages are advancing and continuing constantly. He further added that the start of the release will take place according to the original agreement between the two sides, which will quote-unquote not be before Friday. Israel's National Security Council director's statement comes hours after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held a press conference on late Wednesday. However, Netanyahu did not make a mention of any potential delay in implementation of the agreement during the press conference. According to reports, the release of hostages along with the 4-day ceasefire was originally set to begin Thursday morning. The breakthrough deal was agreed between Israel and Hamas to let aid into Gaza and facilitate the release of at least 50 hostages held by Hamas militants in exchange for at least 150 Palestinians jailed in Israel. But according to the spokesperson for Israel's National Security Council, they've stressed that the delay does not indicate the deal is in peril. Although various Gazans do not feel the same way about this deal. They've expressed mistrust of the planned truce between Israel and Hamas militants.
This is a fake truce. They announce it, then they lie to people. They make them move, then they strike. This is not a life. We're not used to this. Our children run around appalled. This is so unfair.
It's
a fake and failed truce. They were talking about a truce yesterday. Children went on the streets to play and they were happy. Then on that same night, there was a strike. Is this a truce? It's either a complete ceasefire or nothing at all. We're dead anyways.
And now, with the delay in the agreement between Israel and Hamas militants, Israel's chief military spokesperson has said that the war in Gaza will continue until the ceasefire brokered between the two sides starts.
Today we had a discourse with Israel's Chief of General Staff and the brigade commanders. We don't know when a ceasefire will start. We will be prepared to do everything that's required at the moment. We are focusing on the war. What we did today is to expose Hamas tunnels and destroy them. That's also what we are going to do in the coming hours, and we'll continue to do until we arrive at the stage where we have to stop.
Also, for more on this, we're now being joined by our correspondent Jody Cohen, who is joining us live from Ra'anana. Jody, thank you so much for staying with us and for joining us on the broadcast. What do we know about the cause of the delay in the implementation of the hostage release deal?
Hi, Hem. So first of all, I just want to point out the 240 yellow chairs that have been set up behind me. And these have been set up across Israel to remind people of the 240 hostages held in Gaza and to symbolizing, I would say, the fact that they are very much at the forefront of the public's mind here. Now, we've heard from the Qatari foreign minister that they will be announcing the timeline of this hostage release deal at some point on Thursday. The National Security Council head Sahi Hanegbi had said that the deal would start on Friday. Remember, it had been expected to start on Thursday morning. We don't know much about the cause of the delay. As you said, the Mossad chief David Barnea has gone to Qatar, reportedly to wrap up the final details. The deal would involve 50 living hostages to be released, including elderly women, 30 of the child hostages and some mothers. I've seen one Israeli media report suggesting that Hamas had perhaps said that not all the hostages released would be alive, so that's perhaps a cause of the delay. The Palestinian Authority has said that the delay is caused by the details of who is on the list. We've also seen mixed messages on whether or not the Red Cross will be allowed to visit the remaining 190 hostages. So none of the hostages have been visited in almost 7 weeks, and perhaps those mixed messages, perhaps that's one of the causes of the delays. There was also an appeal to the High Court by a terror victims association who are concerned because the deal involves the early release of up to 150 Palestinian prisoners, including those convicted of attempted murder and involvement in terror attacks. Now, the High Court has rejected that petition, saying it's beyond their purview. So that's not expected to be causing this delay. We'll know more about the timing later on today, but in the meantime, there's a lot of anguish being felt by the families of those being held in Gaza.
Absolutely, Jody. Also, what would this deal mean for fighting both in Gaza and on other fronts as well? Because as we do know, this does not mean that the war has come to an end.
Right, and the fighting is absolutely carrying on from both sides this morning, and I should say on both fronts as well. The deal would involve a 4-day pause in the fighting in Gaza. It could be extended 1 day for every 10 hostages released, reportedly up to a maximum of 10 days maximum pause in total. The White House has said that the war won't end after this pause because they say Hamas still poses a threat to Israel. Netanyahu was asked if the pause applies to targeting Hamas chiefs. Remember, most of the Hamas chiefs are actually abroad. They're not in Gaza. And in response, he said that there was no such obligation. Iran-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon, remember, they fired more than 1,000 missiles into Israel since the start of this war. They suggested that they would join in this pause, and Israel says that Hezbollah will be judged on their actions, not on their words. And also the Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen, they've also been firing missiles towards Israel. Remember, they hijacked the partly Israeli-owned ship that was heading to India. And Israel is reportedly preparing to respond to any and all threats. So right now the fighting is continuing. There will be a 4-day pause in fighting when this deal is announced that it's going to start in Gaza. But it remains to be seen what will happen on other fronts.
All right, Jody. Well, thank you so much for bringing us the latest on this. We will, of course, continue to track all the developments on this front closely. Thank you so much for bringing us the latest on this. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.